Most people misunderstand attraction. They believe it begins with pursuit, with the constant effort to impress, with the endless chase of attention and approval. But true attraction is not born from movement. It is born from stillness. Stillness is not the absence of action, but the presence of awareness. It is the quiet energy that pulls rather than pushes, that invites rather than demands. When you are still within yourself, your presence carries a weight that no words can replace. You become magnetic because you no longer move from need. You move from knowing. In stillness, you learn that chasing love often drives it further away. The more you try to grasp it, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you stand still, rooted in your own essence, you allow energy to flow toward you. Like a calm body of water reflecting everything around it, you become a mirror to others' emotions. People are drawn to the ones who do not seek, because in their energy there is peace. Peace is rare, and rarity attracts. Stillness does not mean indifference. It means you are centered. You are not reacting to every fluctuation of emotion or every wave of uncertainty. You observe, you breathe, and you choose how to respond. Most people live from reaction, trying to control how they are seen, trying to make others stay, trying to secure what they fear losing. But a still person understands that control is an illusion. Nothing real can be forced. Whatever is meant to connect will find its way naturally when space is created through stillness. To cultivate this stillness, you must first become aware of your inner movements. Notice how often your mind races toward outcomes, how your emotions try to seek reassurance. Notice how you reach out too quickly, speak too fast, explain too much, hoping to be understood. These are not acts of love. They are acts of fear disguised as care. Stillness invites you to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, to feel before deciding. It transforms your presence from anxious to grounded. The paradox is that when you stop trying to be attractive, you become more attractive. Because true attraction has never been about appearance or words, it is about energy. The still person carries an aura that says, "I am complete, whether you stay or go." That sense of completeness is irresistible because it cannot be found in most people. Most are searching for someone to fill their emptiness. But when you are at peace within, you become a sanctuary for others. Your calm becomes their curiosity. Stillness teaches patience. You learn not to rush the process of connection. You stop measuring how much someone gives or how much they notice you. You understand that energy cannot be forced into alignment. When you are still, you trust timing more than effort. You trust that what resonates with your vibration will stay and what is not meant for you will drift away. This trust creates confidence, and confidence deepens attraction. When you enter a room with still energy, people feel it. You do not need to speak loudly to be noticed. Your silence holds attention because it carries intention. You are not trying to prove anything. You are simply there, anchored, composed, self-contained. This stillness unsettles some because it cannot be read easily. It makes others lean closer, wondering what lives behind your quiet eyes. That is the essence of magnetism. It makes people want to know more, without you revealing everything. The practice of stillness is not about detachment from life, it is about alignment with yourself. When you are aligned, your energy is coherent. Your actions, words, and emotions move in harmony. You no longer send mixed signals. You do not chase and then withdraw, give and then regret, love and then doubt. Stillness aligns your energy with truth. It brings clarity to your boundaries, purity to your emotions, and depth to your presence. You begin to see that attraction is not a game of strategy, but a reflection of your inner state. The more peaceful you are within, the more effortlessly you draw what matches that peace. Stillness removes desperation and replaces it with quiet confidence. It teaches you to value energy more than attention, connection more than control, presence more than performance. Through stillness, you learn to listen, not just to others, but to your own body and intuition. You start to sense when energy flows and when it doesn't. You can feel when someone's presence expands your peace or disturbs it. You stop forcing chemistry where there is none because your stillness no longer needs validation to feel worthy. You observe without judgment, love without fear, and detach without anger. This way of being becomes magnetic because it communicates self-mastery. In relationships, stillness prevents you from over-giving. It reminds you that love cannot be sustained by effort alone. It must breathe. It must be allowed to move at its natural rhythm. When you are still, You create space for others to approach freely. You no longer fill the silence with explanations or prove your devotion through overexpression. You let your presence do the speaking. You let time reveal what words cannot. Stillness deepens your aura. It creates an invisible gravity around you, pulling those who are meant to align with your energy. It allows you to remain soft yet strong, open yet unshaken. When you move from this state, everything you attract is more authentic because it is drawn to your truth, not your fear. Attraction begins the moment you stop trying to be chosen and start embodying your own worth. In stillness, you are not waiting. You are becoming. You no longer move from lack. You move from fullness. Your silence becomes power, your patience becomes magnetism, and your calm becomes the most profound form of presence. Emotional independence is not about rejecting connection or refusing to feel. It is about mastering your inner world so deeply that you are no longer controlled by external approval or attachment. It is the state of standing in your own emotional truth, unshaken by whether someone stays or leaves, praises or ignores you. Most people confuse love with dependency. They believe that closeness must mean merging, that to be connected means to lose boundaries. But true connection is not about blending into another. It is about two whole beings choosing to share space without losing themselves. When you are emotionally independent, your happiness no longer sits in someone else's hands. You stop giving others the power to define your worth or dictate your peace. You begin to realize that no one can truly complete you because you were never incomplete to begin with. The illusion of needing someone to fill your void is what creates suffering. When you remove that illusion, love becomes lighter, freer, and more authentic. Emotional independence is power because it returns control to where it belongs, within. You are no longer a prisoner of how others treat you or how they make you feel. You do not chase validation because you already understand your value. You can love deeply without losing clarity. You can care without collapsing. When someone's behavior changes, your inner state does not crumble. Because your peace was not built upon their consistency, it was built upon your awareness, your discipline, your self-respect. To reach this place, you must first observe how easily you attach. Notice how you wait for a message, how your mood shifts with someone's attention, how your energy rises or falls depending on what another person gives you. These are not signs of love, they are signs of emotional dependence. Dependence disguises itself as devotion, but it drains you. It creates fear, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. Emotional independence dissolves that fear by teaching you to be complete within your solitude. When you find peace in being with yourself, you are no longer afraid of distance. You no longer demand constant reassurance because you know that your stability does not come from anyone else's presence. Emotional independence allows you to love from choice, not from need. When you love from need, you are bargaining. You give to receive, you attach to secure, you hold tightly to avoid abandonment. But when you love from choice, your giving is free. You no longer measure what you receive because your fulfillment is internal. The energy you share flows naturally, without pressure, without manipulation. The relationship becomes a reflection of two individuals who have mastered the art of being whole alone and peaceful together. Power lies in not reacting to every emotional trigger. The emotionally dependent person constantly seeks validation because their inner foundation is fragile. One wrong word can shake their confidence. One small rejection can collapse their peace. But the emotionally independent person has built a fortress within. They still feel pain, but they do not become it. They experience emotion, but they do not let it rule their actions. They know how to pause, how to breathe, how to respond with awareness instead of reaction. To cultivate this inner power, you must learn to sit with your emotions instead of escaping them. When you feel loneliness, do not run toward distraction. When you feel insecurity, do not seek instant reassurance. When you feel anger, do not project it onto others. Sit with it. Listen. Feel its roots. Emotional independence is born from facing your emotions, not avoiding them. It grows when you begin to understand that your feelings are messages, not orders. They speak, but you decide whether to obey. Many people fear that emotional independence will make them cold, detached, or unloving. But it is the opposite. When you no longer depend on others for emotional survival, you can love more purely. You stop placing unrealistic expectations on them. You stop demanding that they heal your wounds or complete your story. You simply meet them as they are. And you allow love to be an exchange of energy, not a transaction of needs. Independence deepens intimacy because it removes fear. You are not afraid to lose what you do not cling to. You are not afraid to express yourself because your self-worth is not tied to their reaction. The power of emotional independence also lies in your ability to walk away from what disrupts your peace. You do not tolerate disrespect or manipulation because you do not need the connection enough to sacrifice your dignity. Your love is strong, but it has direction. You can forgive, but you do not forget who you are in the process. Emotional independence gives you the strength to stay only where mutual respect exists. It transforms love from dependency into partnership, from control into flow. When you reach this state, your energy changes. You no longer chase, you attract. People feel the difference between desperation and calm confidence. They sense that your attention is not a guarantee, it is a privilege. They feel that you can give affection without losing balance, and that energy makes you magnetic. Because most people are searching for someone who can offer love without drowning in it, who can stay connected without clinging. Your independence becomes the very thing that draws others closer. It is through solitude that emotional independence grows. Solitude reveals your patterns, how you seek comfort, how you deal with silence, how you face your own company. Many avoid being alone because silence confronts them with what they have buried. But only by sitting in that silence can you reclaim your inner stability. When you are comfortable in your own presence, no absence can destabilize you. You stop fearing loss because you no longer depend on others to feel alive. The emotionally independent person does not shut their heart, they simply own it. They do not give it away recklessly. They understand that emotional security is self-created, not gifted. They move through life with calm authority, not arrogance. Their power is quiet but unmistakable. It is the power of someone who knows that no matter what happens outside, they will not be lost inside. This is why emotional independence is not merely strength, it is liberation. It frees you from emotional captivity. It allows you to participate in love without being consumed by it. It gives you the freedom to give deeply while remaining whole, to connect without collapsing, to care without losing your center. It is the silent power that makes your presence feel stable, your energy trustworthy, and your love enduring. Many people believe that love grows by giving more, by being endlessly available, by constantly proving their devotion. But what they do not realize is that when everything is easily given, nothing feels sacred. Boundaries are not barriers that separate people, they are the invisible lines that preserve respect, mystery, and emotional clarity. Boundaries create desire because they define value. When something cannot be taken for granted, it is remembered, sought, and appreciated. Desire does not thrive in constant exposure. It lives in the balance between closeness and distance, between knowing and not knowing, between access and limitation. When you make yourself always available, always answering, always giving, always adjusting, you remove the space where curiosity grows. Boundaries create that space. They allow both people to breathe, to wonder, to miss, and to reflect. In this space, desire matures, deepens, and becomes rooted in respect rather than impulse. A person who has no boundaries is like a river without banks. The water spills everywhere, losing direction and depth. Boundaries give structure to energy. They channel love so that it flows purposefully instead of being scattered by fear or insecurity. When you protect your time, your body, and your emotions, you signal that your energy is sacred. That signal does not push people away. It teaches them how to approach you. It shows that you respect yourself enough to be selective about who and what enters your life. Desire begins with recognition, and recognition comes through contrast. When someone cannot have all of you at once, they begin to see the value of each moment shared. Your absence creates the room for their reflection. Your silence becomes a mirror in which they see their own feelings more clearly. Boundaries are the silent teachers of appreciation. They whisper to the other person that access to you must be earned through consistency, honesty, and effort. To live without boundaries is to live in emotional exhaustion. It is to give beyond your limits, hoping that generosity will guarantee love. But love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love, it is dependency. Boundaries protect you from confusing the two. They remind you that connection must be mutual, not one-sided. They remind you that saying no at the right time preserves the power of your whys. When you begin to set boundaries, people who were used to your overgiving will resist. They will accuse you of being distant, selfish, or cold. But this resistance is not proof that you are wrong. It is proof that your energy was being consumed without balance. Boundaries expose who values you for your essence and who values you for your availability. They filter relationships, leaving only those capable of meeting you in reciprocity. Boundaries create desire because they transform interaction into choice. When you no longer respond instantly, your presence becomes intentional. Every word, every meeting, every gesture carries weight. You are no longer acting out of habit, but out of awareness. This awareness heightens emotional intensity. It allows both people to approach each other with clarity, knowing that connection is a privilege, not an entitlement. The psychology of desire is built on uncertainty and discovery. What is fully known becomes ordinary. What is partially revealed becomes magnetic. Boundaries maintain that subtle mystery. They protect your emotional depth from being prematurely exposed. They give the other person a reason to lean closer, to understand you, to earn your trust. The more you respect your boundaries, the more respect you evoke in others. The more you protect your energy, the more others desire to be part of it. Boundaries also cultivate inner peace. They keep your emotional world clean, free from chaos and confusion. When you have clear limits, you no longer absorb everyone else's energy. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop explaining your worth to those who refuse to see it. This peace radiates outward. It makes your presence calm, composed, and self-assured. People are drawn to that calmness because it reflects something they crave within themselves: stability. In relationships, boundaries keep desire alive by maintaining polarity. Polarity is the natural attraction between two distinct energies, masculine and feminine, giving and receiving, pursuing and allowing. When boundaries blur, polarity weakens. There is no tension, no dance, no mystery left. But when you honor your own rhythm, when you take space, when you recharge, when you say no, you allow desire to rebuild itself. You give your partner the opportunity to miss you, to remember what your presence feels like, and to approach you again with renewed energy. Setting boundaries is not about playing games. It is about self-awareness. It means you know what nourishes your spirit and what drains it. You know what aligns with your values and what distracts from them. You are not creating distance to manipulate, but to maintain alignment. And when you are aligned, your energy is magnetic. People can feel the quiet confidence that comes from someone who does not need constant validation to feel secure. Boundaries also redefine love as balance instead of sacrifice. They remind you that love is not about losing yourself to keep someone else comfortable. It is about being authentic enough to let others meet the real you. Not the version that pleases, not the version that fears abandonment, but the version that stands firmly in self-respect. This authenticity ignites attraction because it radiates truth. Truth has a frequency that draws others who are capable of honoring it. When you practice boundaries, you stop over-explaining your worth. You stop fighting to be understood. You stop bending yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You understand that your value does not increase by being constantly accessible. Your value deepens when you become intentional about where your energy goes. This restraint is not rigidity, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that the right people are not repelled by your boundaries, they are inspired by them. Desire is a delicate flame. Too much distance and it fades, too much closeness and it suffocates. Boundaries keep the air flowing between two souls so that the flame can breathe. They maintain a rhythm between giving and receiving, presence and absence, words and silence. This rhythm keeps love alive because it prevents it from becoming routine. It transforms ordinary moments into something meaningful, something that must be earned and appreciated. Boundaries create the kind of space that deepens connection instead of weakening it. They give both people the freedom to exist as individuals while choosing to return to each other with intention. They teach respect, balance, and patience. They allow love to be slow enough to grow roots and strong enough to last beyond impulse. They remind you that your energy is sacred, and that anything sacred must be guarded, not given recklessly. When you understand this, you realize that distance does not destroy desire, it defines it. Boundaries do not limit love, they protect the depth of it. There is a quiet, undeniable power in a person who carries self-respect. It is not loud, it is not boastful, it does not demand to be seen. Yet when you encounter it, you feel it immediately. It is the way someone moves, the way they speak, the way they choose silence over reaction. Self-respect cannot be faked, and that is what makes it magnetic. It becomes the foundation of obsession because it communicates one message clearly. I know my value, and I will not trade it for attention. Most people mistake attraction for approval. They believe that if they please others enough, they will be loved more deeply. But obsession does not grow from those who beg to be noticed. It grows from those who are complete within themselves. When you possess self-respect, your presence becomes rare. And in a world full of people trying to prove themselves, rarity becomes irresistible. It is the calm strength of someone who does not need to chase validation that pulls others closer. Self-respect begins when you stop negotiating your worth, when you no longer try to convince someone to see your value, when you no longer tolerate half-hearted love, inconsistent behavior, or emotional breadcrumbs. It is the moment you realize that your energy is currency and you decide to spend it wisely. This shift changes everything about how you carry yourself. Your silence becomes meaningful, your attention becomes precious, and your absence becomes powerful. People begin to feel your boundaries without you ever having to announce them. The one who respects themselves never begs for what they deserve. They know that chasing what runs is a form of self-abandonment. They understand that love must flow freely, not be dragged out of someone's hesitation. This detachment is not arrogance, it is self-awareness. It is the understanding that love built on disrespect will always collapse. No matter how much you give, when you hold yourself with dignity, you set the tone for how others treat you. You become a mirror that reflects their own level of respect back to them. Self-respect creates emotional gravity. When you have it, your energy feels grounded. You are not easily swayed by temporary emotions or outside opinions. You do not rush into situations that compromise your peace. This steadiness makes you unshakable, and it's this unshakable nature that fascinates people. In a world where most are ruled by impulse, a calm and composed person stands out like still water in a storm. People are drawn to that stillness because it represents something they crave: inner control. When you live with self-respect, you stop seeking love through self-sacrifice. You no longer overextend to prove your worthiness. You begin to see that real love does not ask you to shrink. It does not ask you to chase, to beg, or to perform. It asks only that you remain true to who you are. The moment you start prioritizing your dignity over temporary validation, you change the balance of power. You stop orbiting around others and others start orbiting around you. That shift is what creates obsession. It reverses the chase. Obsession is not built from manipulation, it is built from mystery. And mystery lives in self-respect, because when you respect yourself, you do not give everything away at once. You do not overshare, over-explain, or over-pursue. You allow others to earn access to you. You reveal your depth slowly, intentionally, with purpose. This restraint leaves room for curiosity, and curiosity is the root of desire. What is easily accessed becomes ordinary, but what must be earned becomes unforgettable. Self-respect also changes your energy language. It alters how you communicate without words. You no longer need to demand effort, because your energy already commands it. The way you carry yourself, your eye contact, your tone, your composure, says more than any speech could. People begin to realize that your time is not to be wasted, that your attention is not casual, and that being close to you is a privilege, not a right. That recognition awakens appreciation, and appreciation turns into pursuit. The person with self-respect does not compete for affection. They know that what belongs to them cannot be taken away. They do not envy, they do not force, they do not plead. They simply continue to elevate themselves. Their focus is not on changing others, but on maintaining their own frequency. That is why they become unforgettable, because they embody peace in a world that constantly seeks chaos. They are not dependent on attention. They are nourished by alignment. When you respect yourself, you do not rush the process of love. You do not chase closure from those who refuse to understand you. You do not argue your worth with those who cannot see it. Instead, you walk away with grace. And it is this grace that lingers in people's minds long after you leave. It is what keeps them wondering how you managed to remain so composed while they lost control. Your silence becomes the echo that fills their thoughts. Your absence becomes the reminder of what they cannot replace. Self-respect transforms how you show up in every interaction. You no longer seek to be chosen. You choose yourself first. You no longer stay where your peace is disturbed. You no longer bend for validation or apologize for having standards. This self-possession makes you magnetic because it is rare. Most people crave attention, few demand respect. The energy of those who demand respect feels different. It carries weight, presence, and intention. When you are grounded in self-respect, even your love feels different. It becomes quieter but stronger. You do not love from emptiness, you love from fullness. You do not give to be seen, you give because it flows naturally from your wholeness. You do not lose yourself in the process of loving someone else. You remain centered, aware, and sovereign. This kind of love is not desperate, it is divine. It inspires, uplifts, and challenges others to rise to the same standard of integrity. People become obsessed not with what you give them, but with how they feel in your presence. When you move with self-respect, they feel both drawn and challenged. They feel safe in your calm, yet intrigued by your mystery. They sense that you are not easily swayed, that your emotions do not crumble under pressure. That stability becomes addictive. It becomes a silent power that commands their attention even in your absence. In every interaction, self-respect whispers the same truth. You cannot be possessed, only appreciated. You are not desperate to be chosen, you are discerning about what you allow. You no longer measure your worth through how much someone desires you. Instead, you understand that your worth is constant, whether anyone recognizes it or not, and from that understanding arises an aura that cannot be ignored. It is this aura that turns simple attraction into deep obsession because it reflects mastery over the one thing most people have not yet learned to control: their own self-worth. Mystery is not about hiding, it is about being so deeply connected to yourself that you do not need to explain everything you are. True mystery is born from wholeness, from the quiet confidence of someone who has met their own depths and no longer feels the need to perform for attention. It is not created through games, manipulation, or emotional distance. It arises naturally when your presence carries the weight of authenticity. When your silence speaks of inner peace rather than emptiness. Wholeness gives birth to mystery because it cannot be fully understood by those who have not yet met themselves in the same way. When you are whole, you do not move from lack. You are not seeking to fill a void through others. You are not trying to be seen because you already see yourself. That inner completeness radiates through your energy. It makes you calm, intentional, and grounded. People sense that calmness and it stirs something inside them. They want to know what sustains it, what feeds it, what gives you that unshakable center. The mystery is not about what you hide, but about the depth you carry without needing to reveal it all. Wholeness is the state where you no longer need to chase love, validation, or attention. You are already full. You give, but you do not give to receive. You share, but you do not pour from depletion. This creates an energy of abundance, and abundance naturally attracts curiosity. People are drawn to those who seem content in their own company, who are not desperate for connection yet still open to it. There is a quiet balance there, a harmony between independence and vulnerability that feels both rare and magnetic. Mystery fades when you begin to over-explain yourself, when you constantly justify your feelings or chase after understanding. It fades when you seek validation for every emotion you experience. But when you are whole, you no longer explain. You express. You no longer defend your choices. You live them. You do not need to prove your worth because it is already woven into your being. This effortless self-assurance creates intrigue, not because you are distant, but because you are free. A whole person does not overshare or overexpose. They understand that some parts of the self are sacred, that not everything needs to be translated into words. The deepest parts of your spirit are meant to be felt, not explained. When you live in that awareness, your energy becomes layered. Each layer reveals itself only to those who approach with presence and patience. This is where mystery thrives, in the depth that cannot be accessed through surface-level attention. Wholeness allows you to walk through the world with grace. You are not seeking to be understood by everyone because you have accepted that only a few will be capable of meeting you where you truly are. You are not trying to make yourself smaller to be more relatable. You are not trying to fit into someone's idea of who you should be. You are simply living from the center of your truth. And this alignment creates a quiet confidence that others can sense, but not fully decode. They see the peace in your eyes and wonder what sustains it. They feel your stillness and want to understand its source. That wonder is the essence of mystery. Mystery born from wholeness is not about silence or withdrawal. It is about presence. It is about being fully there, yet untouched by chaos. You can engage deeply, but you do not lose yourself in connection. You can give love, but you do not abandon your own soul in the process. You can share your emotions without drowning in them. This balance between openness and self-containment creates a unique polarity. People feel close to you, yet they know there are parts of you they will never completely grasp. Those untouched spaces keep their fascination alive. Wholeness transforms how you communicate. You no longer rush to fill silence with words. You are comfortable in pauses because your energy speaks louder than any sentence could. You do not need to impress or convince. You understand that true understanding happens not through explanation, but through energy resonance. Those who are meant to understand will feel it, and those who are not meant to will simply be curious. And curiosity is the beginning of intrigue. The mystery of a whole person lies in their emotional stability. When others expect drama, they find calmness. When others expect neediness, they meet serenity. When others try to provoke reaction, they encounter awareness. This unpredictability makes you fascinating because your energy does not follow the usual patterns. You are not controlled by the outside world. You respond from within. People cannot figure you out, not because you are complex, but because you are consistent. And in that consistency lies depth, because only someone who has met their own mind can remain unmoved in the face of chaos. Wholeness also creates mystery through purpose. When you are living with meaning, your focus is not scattered. You are not chasing distraction, gossip, or validation. Your attention moves with intention. You have boundaries, direction, and clarity. This focus gives you an aura of certainty that few possess. Others feel that you are moving towards something greater, something unseen, and they want to be part of that journey. They sense that your energy is guided by something beyond superficial emotion. That sense of inner direction keeps their attention because it suggests depth beyond comprehension. To be whole is to be connected to both your light and your shadow. It is to accept every part of yourself, the strength and the softness, the discipline and the vulnerability, the chaos and the calm. This integration removes the need to perform perfection. You do not hide your humanness, yet you do not let it rule you. You embody balance, and balance is magnetic. People are drawn to those who can hold both fire and water without being consumed by either. When you are whole, you move differently. You listen more than you speak. You observe more than you react. You are aware of the subtle movements of energy in every interaction. You know when to step back, when to engage, when to remain silent, and when to express. Your restraint does not come from fear but from wisdom. You have learned that not every thought deserves a voice, not every emotion requires an audience, and not every person deserves access to your depth. That selective openness keeps your energy pure, and purity always carries mystery. Mystery is born when a person is no longer chasing meaning outside themselves. When their fulfillment comes from within, their energy becomes rich, still, and vast. Others feel drawn to that depth because it reflects what they secretly long for, the peace of being whole. It is not the mask of mystery that captivates, it is the truth behind the calm. Wholeness radiates an energy that cannot be copied because it is not created through effort. It is cultivated through self-awareness, solitude, and spiritual maturity. The most mysterious people are not those who hide, but those who have nothing to hide, and yet do not need to show everything. Their mystery lies in their wholeness, in the completeness that cannot be grasped, the depth that cannot be measured, the calm that cannot be disturbed. They move through the world quietly, yet their presence leaves an imprint that lingers, a silence that speaks louder than attention, a peace that invites both awe and desire. To love deeply is one of the greatest expressions of the human spirit, but to love without losing the self is one of the highest forms of wisdom. Most people enter love as seekers. They want to be completed, fulfilled, and healed by another. They believe that love should merge two souls into one, that devotion means dissolving boundaries. Yet this kind of love, though intense, often ends in imbalance. True love is not fusion, it is coexistence. It is the meeting of two whole beings who share energy without losing identity, who care without collapsing, and who connect without forgetting where they begin and where they end. Losing yourself in love often starts quietly. You give a little more each day, you compromise a little too much, and slowly your needs fade into the background. You stop listening to your own voice because the sound of theirs feels louder. You stop honoring your rhythm because their emotions become your compass. And though it may look like devotion from the outside, it is, in truth, the gradual erosion of self-awareness. Love that costs your identity is not love. It is attachment wearing the mask of intimacy. To love without losing yourself, you must first know yourself. You must understand what nourishes your spirit and what drains it. You must learn to sit in solitude long enough to hear your own thoughts clearly without interference. When you know who you are, you bring completeness to connection. You do not use love as a refuge from emptiness, you use it as an extension of fullness. Two whole beings meeting in awareness create balance. Two incomplete beings meeting in need create dependence. Love that honors the self is slow, patient, and conscious. It does not rush to merge but takes time to observe, to feel, to understand. It allows individuality to breathe. In such love, boundaries are not walls, they are the structure that allows respect to grow. Each person maintains their own space, not to distance themselves, but to preserve clarity. Boundaries ensure that love remains a choice, not a necessity. They protect the essence of each person so that the connection can expand without consuming. When you begin to love without losing yourself, you learn the difference between caring and carrying. You understand that you cannot save someone from their own lessons, and that empathy does not mean self-abandonment. You can hold space for another's pain without absorbing it as your own. You can be present without being consumed. This detachment is not coldness. It is maturity. It is the awareness that love thrives not in enmeshment, but in balance. Love that preserves the self is also honest. It speaks truth even when silence feels easier. It sets boundaries even when comfort tempts compliance. It refuses to pretend just to avoid conflict. In this form of love, both individuals are encouraged to grow, not shrink. They challenge each other to rise rather than bend. The relationship becomes a space for expansion, not control. When both people can stand firmly in who they are, love becomes a meeting of strengths instead of a trade of insecurities. There is beauty in interdependence, the middle ground between isolation and attachment. It is the dance of giving and receiving without expectation, of holding and releasing without fear. In interdependence, love becomes fluid. Each person can flow freely toward their purpose while still returning to one another in trust. There is no suffocation, no grasping, no begging for reassurance. The connection feels alive because it moves from authenticity rather than dependence. Losing the self in love often stems from fear, the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear of being alone. When fear becomes the foundation of love, control follows. One person begins to chase, to overgive, to perform, believing that constant effort will guarantee security. But love born from fear is fragile. It requires constant proof. Love rooted in self-awareness, however, is unshakable. It does not need reassurance because it exists in clarity. It is grounded in truth, not illusion. To maintain yourself in love, you must practice solitude even within connection. Solitude does not mean distance. It means returning to your center. It means taking time to nurture your mind, your body, and your purpose. It means remembering that your life is not defined by the relationship but enhanced by it. When you can be alone and at peace, your love becomes lighter, freer. You stop clinging, and clinging is what kills love. The more you cling, the more love suffocates. The more you trust, the more it breathes. Loving without losing the self also means understanding that conflict is not the enemy. Differences are inevitable because individuality exists. When you respect your own truth, you can also respect another's. You no longer seek to win arguments or to dominate emotionally. Instead, you seek harmony through understanding. You listen not to react, but to connect. Love that preserves the self values communication over control, compassion over compromise that leads to resentment. When you remain rooted in yourself, you bring a unique energy into love, a calm strength that cannot be replaced. You are not afraid to walk away from what dishonors your boundaries. You are not afraid to take space when needed. You are not afraid to say no when your intuition speaks. This firmness does not repel love, it refines it. It teaches the other person that your heart is open, but guarded by wisdom, that your affection is deep but not desperate. Love is not meant to dissolve you, it is meant to reveal you. The right connection will not ask you to silence your truth for the sake of peace. It will not require you to neglect your dreams to maintain harmony. it will hold space for both unity and individuality. When two people who respect themselves come together, they do not lose identity. They amplify it. Their love becomes a reflection of mutual growth, not mutual dependence. To love without losing the self is to love consciously. To give without forgetting your own needs. To care without collapsing, to hold without clinging. It is to recognize that you are not half waiting for another half. You are whole, and your love is the overflow of that wholeness. You can stand alone and still choose to stand beside someone. You can share your world without surrendering it. You can open your heart without handing it away entirely. In this kind of love, presence replaces possession. Freedom replaces fear. Wholeness replaces hunger. And love becomes not something you fall into, but something you rise within. It becomes a sacred exchange between two sovereign souls, each complete, each aware, each choosing to walk together, not because they must, but because they truly wish to.